I never thought I'd become the kind of man who tracks his wife's movements. Hell, 6 months ago, I would have laughed at the idea. Called it paranoid, controlling, the kind of thing insecure husbands do when they've already lost the game. But here I am, staring at a little magnetic box, no bigger than a matchbook, wondering if I'm about to confirm my worst fears or prove myself a fool. It started with Fridays. Every Friday, like clockwork, Rachel would kiss me on the cheek around 10 in the morning, grab her purse, and say the exact same thing. "I need to take care of something at the bank, honey. Back in a couple hours." At first, I didn't think much of it. We'd been married 14 years. You don't question every errand after 14 years. You trust. You assume. You go about your day and think about what to make for dinner. But then I noticed she was gone longer than a couple hours. 3 hours, sometimes 4. And when she came back, she'd be different. Not upset, not happy exactly, just distant, like her mind was somewhere else, working through something she couldn't or wouldn't share with me. "How'd it go at the bank?" I'd ask. "Fine, just the usual stuff," she'd say, already moving past me toward the kitchen or the laundry room, anywhere that ended the conversation. The usual stuff, for months, every single Friday. I tried to let it go. I really did. We had a good life, Rachel and me. A nice house in the suburbs, 2 kids in college, steady jobs. She worked part-time at a dental office. I managed a small construction company my father started 40 years ago. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We were supposed to be in the easy part of life now, coasting toward retirement, maybe planning that trip to Italy we'd been talking about since our honeymoon. But something was off. I could feel it in my gut, that primal instinct that tells you when the foundation beneath your feet isn't as solid as it looks. It was my daughter Emma who really made me see it. She came home for Thanksgiving break, and one morning over coffee, just the 2 of us, she said something that stuck with me. "Dad, is Mom okay? She seems, I don't know, secretive lately." I looked at my daughter, 20 years old and sharp as a tack, and realized I wasn't imagining things. If Emma noticed it too, something was definitely wrong. "What do you mean, sweetie?" I tried to ask her about her week, and she got all defensive, like I was interrogating her or something. It was weird. "And she keeps checking her phone when she thinks no one's looking." I nodded slowly, pretending I hadn't noticed the same things, pretending my stomach wasn't twisting into knots. "I'm sure it's nothing," I said, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. "You know your mom. She gets stressed about little things sometimes." But Emma just looked at me with those knowing eyes, the same green eyes her mother has, and I could tell she wasn't buying it any more than I was. That was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks of watching Rachel more carefully. 3 weeks of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. 3 weeks of that Friday routine, the same words, the same kiss on the cheek, the same inexplicable absence. Last week, I made a decision. I went to one of those electronics stores downtown, the kind that sells surveillance equipment to private investigators and worried parents. The kid behind the counter couldn't have been more than 25, but he knew his stuff. "How long does the battery last?" I asked, holding the GPS tracker. "About 2 weeks on a single charge. Updates location every 30 seconds. You can track it from your phone." I paid cash. I don't know why that felt important, but it did. Like paying with a card would leave a trail, evidence of my suspicion, proof of the moment I stopped trusting my wife. I installed it yesterday afternoon while Rachel was at work, crawled under her Honda CR-V in our garage, magnetic side up against the undercarriage, hidden behind the rear bumper where no one would ever think to look. My hands were shaking, 52 years old, and I felt like a teenager doing something wrong, something I couldn't take back. But I did it anyway. Because I needed to know, because 14 years of marriage should mean something, because the woman I love was slipping away from me, and I didn't even understand why. This morning was Friday. Rachel gave me the same kiss, the same words. Taking care of something at the bank, honey. Back in a couple hours. I watched her pull out of the driveway, and then I pulled up the tracking app on my phone. For the first 15 minutes, everything seemed normal. She drove toward downtown, took the usual route past the grocery store and the post office. Our bank was straight ahead, another mile down Main Street. But then she turned left onto Oakwood Avenue. My chest tightened. There's nothing on Oakwood except old neighborhoods and a small park where we used to take the kids when they were little. No bank, no shopping centers, nothing that would require a 4-hour errand every single week. I sat in my truck in our driveway, watching the little blue dot on my screen move through streets I knew by heart. She drove for another 10 minutes, deeper into the residential area until finally the dot stopped moving. I zoomed in on the map. The address meant nothing to me at first, just a random house number on Maple Drive. But then I switched to satellite view, and my stomach dropped. It was a house, a small, one-story house with a neat lawn and a wooden fence. The kind of place a single person might live, or a couple just starting out. Rachel's car sat in the driveway. I stared at my phone for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a minute. My mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. An affair, a secret family, some kind of gambling problem or drug thing I'd never suspected. No, not Rachel. Not my wife of 14 years, mother of my children, the woman who still laughed at my stupid jokes and held my hand during movies. But the evidence was right there, glowing on my screen. Every Friday, the same house, 4 hours at a time. I made a decision. I'm going to that house right now. I'm going to see what my wife has been hiding from me, what's been slowly dismantling our marriage from the inside out. My hands grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles are white. Part of me hopes I'll find some innocent explanation, something we'll laugh about years from now, but a bigger part of me knows that whatever I'm about to discover, whatever truth is waiting for me on Maple Drive, it's going to change everything. I start the engine and pull out of the driveway, following the same route Rachel took 30 minutes ago. The blue dot on my phone hasn't moved. Neither has my wife. The drive to Maple Drive takes 23 minutes. I know because I watch every single second tick by on my dashboard clock, each one feeling like an hour. My mind won't stop spinning, creating and discarding scenarios like a broken projector, cycling through slides of my potential destruction. Maybe it's her sister. Maybe Janet's been having problems with her husband again, and Rachel's been helping her through it, keeping it private, because that's what Rachel does. She protects people, even when it costs her. But Janet lives on the other side of town, and why would Rachel lie about going to the bank? Maybe it's a support group, AA, or something similar. Maybe Rachel's been struggling with something she's ashamed of, and every Friday she goes to get help, to talk to people who understand, and she's been too proud or too scared to tell me. But you don't park in someone's driveway for a support group. You go to a church basement or a community center. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe Rachel's been seeing a therapist, dealing with depression or anxiety, working through something alone because she didn't want to worry me or the kids. But therapists have offices. They don't work out of single-story houses in quiet neighborhoods. With each maybe, the explanations get weaker, more desperate. By the time I turn onto Maple Drive, I've stopped trying to convince myself. Whatever's happening in that house, it's not innocent. You don't lie to your husband for months about innocent things. I drive past the address first, just a slow roll by to get a sense of the place. It's a modest house, probably built in the 70s. White siding, blue shutters, a small front porch with 2 chairs. The lawn is well maintained, flower beds along the walkway, even though it's late November and most of the plants are dormant. Someone cares about this place. Rachel's CR-V sits in the driveway, right where the GPS said it would be. Seeing it in person makes it real in a way the blue dot on my phone never could. My wife is inside that house, right now, doing something she thinks I don't know about. I park 3 houses down, across the street. My truck's common enough that it won't stand out, just another work vehicle in a neighborhood full of them. I sit there for 5 minutes, 10, 15, watching the house like some kind of private investigator in a bad movie. Nothing happens. No one comes in or out. The curtains are drawn. The front door stays closed. I think about knocking, just walking up to that door and knocking, seeing the look on Rachel's face when she opens it and finds me standing there. The shock, the guilt, or maybe the relief. Maybe she's been waiting for this moment, wanting to confess but not knowing how. But I don't move, because once I knock on that door, there's no going back. Once I confront her, whatever truth exists inside that house becomes our reality. And some part of me, the cowardly part I'm not proud of, wants to stay in this moment just a little longer. The moment before knowing, the last moment where my marriage might still be salvageable. My phone buzzes, a text from my foreman, Pete. "Boss, we got a problem with the Miller job. Need you to call me." I stare at the message. The Miller job. A kitchen renovation on the east side. We're supposed to finish next week. Under normal circumstances, I'd call Pete back immediately. Under normal circumstances, work would matter. But nothing about today is normal. I silence my phone and keep watching the house. 20 minutes pass, then 30. My back starts to ache from sitting rigid in the truck, my jaw sore from clenching. I'm about to give up, to drive home, and wait for Rachel to return and confront her there, in familiar territory, when the front door finally opens. My breath catches, but it's not Rachel who steps out onto the porch. It's a man. He's younger than me, maybe early 40s, with dark hair starting to grey at the temples. He's wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, holding a coffee mug in one hand. He looks tired. The kind of tired that lives in your bones. He sits down in one of the porch chairs and just stares out at the street, not looking at anything in particular. And then Rachel appears in the doorway behind him. My heart hammers so hard I can hear it in my ears. She's holding a coffee mug too, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing the same cardigan she wore when she left the house this morning. She says something to the man, something I can't hear from this distance, and he nods without looking back at her. She touches his shoulder, just briefly, just her hand resting there for a moment, but it's intimate in a way that makes my stomach turn. That's how she touches me when I'm upset about something, when she's trying to comfort me without words. Then she goes back inside, and the man is alone again on the porch. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Every worst-case scenario I'd been trying not to imagine suddenly seems real, possible, inevitable. This is it. This is why she's been lying. This is the secret that's been eating away at our marriage. My wife is having an affair. The words feel absurd even as they form in my mind. Rachel doesn't cheat. She's not that kind of person. In 14 years, she's never given me a reason to doubt her, never been secretive about where she's going or who she's with. Until now. I should leave. I should get out of here before I do something stupid, something I can't take back. I should go home and think, really think about how I want to handle this. Maybe hire an actual private investigator, gather evidence, talk to a lawyer. But my hand is already on the door handle. My feet are already carrying me across the street. My fist is already knocking on that door. 3 hard raps that sound too loud in the quiet neighborhood. The man on the porch turns to look at me, confusion crossing his face. He sets down his coffee mug and stands up slowly, like he's not sure if I'm a threat or just lost. "Can I help you?" he calls out before I reach the porch steps. Up close, I can see the resemblance. It hits me like a punch to the gut, so obvious I don't know how I didn't see it from across the street. He has Rachel's nose, Rachel's chin, the same slight cleft that Emma has. "Who are you?" I ask, my voice rougher than I intended. The man's eyes narrow. "I think I should be asking you that. This is my house." Behind him the door opens again. Rachel steps out, and when she sees me standing there, her face goes pale, not guilty pale, not caught in a lie pale, terrified pale. "David." She breathes my name like a prayer or a curse. "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" The words come out sharp, angry. "What are you doing here, Rachel? Every Friday for months? Who the hell is this?" The man looks between us, understanding dawning on his face. "Oh, God," he mutters. "You didn't tell him." "Shut up, Marcus," Rachel snaps, but there's no real heat in it. She looks at me with eyes full of something I can't quite identify. Shame? Fear? Sorrow? "Tell me what?" I demand. "What haven't you told me?" Rachel closes her eyes for a long moment, and when she opens them again, there are tears pooling in the corners. "David, please, can we talk about this at home? Not here, not like this." "No." I plant my feet, immovable. "Right here, right now. You've been lying to me for months. You owe me the truth." She looks at the man, Marcus, and something passes between them. Some kind of silent communication that makes me feel like an outsider in a conversation I'm supposed to be part of. Marcus sighs heavily and sits back down in his chair, looking suddenly exhausted. "You might as well tell him, Rachel. He tracked you here. He's not going to let this go." "How did you—" Rachel starts, then stops. "The GPS. You put a tracker on my car." It's not a question. And somehow, standing here in front of this house with this stranger who looks like my wife, I don't feel guilty about it anymore. "Damn right I did. Now tell me what's going on. Tell me who he is." Rachel wraps her arms around herself, that cardigan suddenly looking too thin for the cold November air. When she speaks, her voice is barely above a whisper. "David, this is Marcus. He's my brother." The world tilts sideways. "Your brother? You don't have a brother?" "You have Janet. One sister, that's it." "I know what I told you." Rachel's tears spill over now, tracking down her cheeks. "I know what I've always said, but I lied. I've been lying about this since before we even met." Marcus stands up again, and I notice he's gripping the porch railing, like he needs it for support. "Maybe you two should come inside. This isn't a conversation for the neighbors to hear." I don't want to go inside. I don't want to sit down and have coffee and pretend this is a normal situation. But Rachel's already moving toward the door, and some part of me needs to know the full story, needs to understand why my wife has been keeping a secret brother hidden for our entire marriage. The inside of the house is neat, but sparse. Minimal furniture, no pictures on the walls, everything functional but impersonal. It feels temporary, like Marcus hasn't quite committed to making this place a home. We sit in the living room, Rachel and me on a worn couch, Marcus in an armchair across from us. Nobody speaks for a long moment. The silence is suffocating. Finally, Marcus breaks it. "I'm 43 years old. He says, looking directly at me. "I've been in prison for the last 22 years. Got out 4 months ago. Rachel's been helping me adjust." Prison. The word hangs in the air like smoke. "What did you do?" I ask. "David," Rachel starts, but Marcus cuts her off. "He deserves to know." Marcus leans forward, elbows on his knees. "I killed someone. Manslaughter, not murder. I was 21, drunk, got in a fight outside a bar. The guy hit his head on the curb. Didn't mean for it to happen, but that doesn't change the fact that he's dead, and I'm the reason why." I look at Rachel, trying to process this. "And you've known where he was this whole time?" "Not the whole time." She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. "When Marcus went to prison, my parents disowned him, said he was dead to them, that we were never supposed to speak his name again. I was 12. Janet was 8. They erased him from our family like he never existed. But you didn't forget. How could I? Rachel's voice breaks. He was my big brother. He taught me how to ride a bike. He scared away the boys who were mean to me at school. And then one night he made a terrible mistake, and my parents acted like 21 years of his life didn't matter anymore. The weight of Rachel's words settles over the room like a heavy blanket. I look at Marcus, really look at him, and see the years etched into his face. 22 years in prison. He went in barely an adult and came out middle-aged, released into a world that had moved on without him. When did you start visiting him? I ask Rachel, trying to keep my voice steady. She takes a shaky breath. I wrote him my first letter when I turned 18. Took me weeks to work up the courage. My parents would have killed me if they'd found out. I had to rent a P.O. box, use a friend's address. We corresponded for years before I ever actually visited him. Years, I repeat. How many years, Rachel? She won't meet my eyes. Since before we met, David. Since I was 18. The betrayal cuts deeper than I expected. So our entire marriage, every year we've been together, you've been lying to me about this. I wanted to tell you. Her voice is pleading now. God, you have no idea how many times I almost did. But every time I tried to find the words, I'd think about what my parents did to him, how they cut him out like he was nothing. And I was terrified you'd do the same thing, that you'd judge me for staying in contact with him, or worse, that you'd make me choose. So instead you chose to lie. The words taste bitter. For 14 years. Marcus shifts in his chair, uncomfortable. This isn't her fault, man. I told her not to tell anyone. I didn't want to ruin her life more than I already had. Don't. I turn to him sharply. Don't try to protect her right now. She's a grown woman who made her own choices. You're right, Marcus says quietly. But you should know something. Rachel's the only person who didn't give up on me. The only one who wrote, who visited, who gave a damn whether I lived or died in that place. My parents, my friends, everyone else just vanished. Like I'd never existed. But not her. Never her. I want to stay angry. I want to hold on to this righteous fury, this sense of betrayal. But looking at Rachel's tear-stained face, at the guilt and fear and love all mixed together there, I feel something else creeping in. Understanding, maybe. Or at least the beginning of it. Why didn't you trust me? I ask her softly. In 14 years, why didn't you ever trust me enough to tell me the truth? Rachel finally looks at me, and the pain in her eyes is almost unbearable. Because I love you. Because we built this beautiful life together, and I was terrified of losing it. My parents taught me that loving Marcus was wrong, that staying loyal to him made me a bad person. I internalized that shame, David. I carried it with me every single day. And when he got out? When I found out his release date, I panicked. She twists her hands in her lap. I knew I couldn't keep hiding it forever. I knew he'd need help adjusting, finding work, getting on his feet. But I still couldn't bring myself to tell you. So you made up the bank story. I made up the bank story, she confirms miserably. And every Friday I'd come here, help him with job applications, teach him how to use a smartphone, go grocery shopping with him. All the normal things that people take for granted, but that he had to relearn after 22 years away from the world. I turned to Marcus. And you were okay with this? With her lying to her husband about you? He shakes his head. Hell no, I wasn't okay with it. We fought about it constantly. I kept telling her she had to come clean, that this was going to blow up in her face eventually. But Rachel's stubborn, always has been. Despite everything, I almost smile at that. She is stubborn. It's one of the things I love about her. Show me, I say suddenly. Show you what? Rachel asks. Show me the letters, the ones you've been writing all these years. If you really have been in contact with him this whole time, there must be evidence. Show me. Rachel and Marcus exchange another look. Then Marcus stands and leaves the room. returning a minute later with a cardboard box. He sets it on the coffee table between us. "This is just what I kept," he says. "Rachel probably has more at her end." I open the box. Inside are hundreds of letters, some on notebook paper, some on stationery, all in Rachel's handwriting. I pick one at random, dated 15 years ago, and start reading. "Dear Marcus, spring is here, and the cherry blossoms are blooming. I walked past our old elementary school yesterday and remembered how you used to wait for me at the gate every afternoon. I miss you so much it physically hurts sometimes. Mom and Dad still won't acknowledge you exist, but I carry you with me everywhere I go. You're not forgotten. You're not erased. I promise you that." I set it down and pick up another, this one from 8 years ago. "Dear Marcus, I got married today. His name is David, and he's wonderful. Kind, funny, patient, everything I could want in a partner. I wish you could have been there to walk me down the aisle. Dad did it, but it felt wrong. It should have been you. I almost told David about you last night, but I couldn't find the words. I'm sorry. I'm such a coward." My throat tightens. I remember our wedding day, remember thinking Rachel seemed distracted during the ceremony. I chalked it up to normal bride nerves, never imagining she was grieving the absence of a brother I didn't know existed. "There are more," Marcus says quietly. "Years and years of them. She never missed a month, not once." I look up at Rachel. "You wrote him every month for over 20 years. She nods, fresh tears falling. "I couldn't visit as often as I wanted. My parents watched me too closely, and after we got married, I was terrified you'd notice if I disappeared for whole days to make the drive to the prison. But I could write. I could send letters and keep him connected to the outside world, let him know someone still cared. And the Friday visits started when he got out 4 months ago. He needed help, David, real, consistent help, not just letters anymore, but actual presence. Teaching him how to navigate a world that's changed completely since he went away. I couldn't just abandon him after everything." I sit back on the couch, trying to absorb it all. The lies, the secret brother, the decades of hidden loyalty. Part of me understands it, even respects it. Rachel stayed faithful to her brother when everyone else, including their own parents, had written him off. That takes strength, conviction, love. But another part of me can't get past the deception. 14 years of marriage built on a foundation of lies, no matter how well-intentioned. "I need some air," I say, standing abruptly. "David, please." Rachel reaches for me, but I step back. "I'm not leaving. I just need a minute to think." I walk outside to the porch and lean against the railing, sucking in cold November air. My mind is spinning, trying to reconcile the wife I thought I knew with this woman who's been living a double life for our entire relationship. Behind me, I hear the door open. Marcus steps out, closing it softly behind him. "She loves you, you know," he says, standing beside me at the railing. "Talks about you constantly in her letters, how you make her laugh, how you're a good father, how you built that back deck yourself even though you'd never done carpentry before. She's proud of the life you two made together." "Then why lie about something this important?" Marcus is quiet for a moment. "You ever done something you're deeply ashamed of? Something that changes how you see yourself?" I think about the GPS tracker under Rachel's car. "Yeah, recently, actually." "Then you know how it feels. That shame, it gets inside you, becomes part of who you are." Rachel spent her childhood being told that loving me was wrong, that I was unworthy of loyalty or forgiveness. Even though she never believed it, never abandoned me, some part of her internalized that message. She was afraid you'd see her the way her parents did, as someone who made bad choices, who couldn't let go of the past. "That's not fair to me," I say. "She never gave me a chance to prove I wouldn't react that way." "You're right. It's not fair. But fear rarely is." We stand in silence for a while, watching the clouds move across the grey sky. Finally, Marcus speaks again. "I'm not asking you to forgive her right away. That's between you two. But I am asking you to understand that everything she did came from a place of love. Love for you, love for our family, love for me. She was trying to protect everyone, and she got caught in an impossible position. She should have told me. Yes, Marcus agrees simply. She should have. The door opens again, and Rachel steps out, wrapping her arms around herself against the cold. David, I'm so sorry, she says, her voice small. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to hear it. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for breaking your trust. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. I look at my wife, at the woman I've shared my life with for 14 years, and I realize something. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I feel betrayed. But I still love her. We don't go home right away. Instead, the three of us sit in Marcus's small living room for hours, and Rachel tells me everything. The whole story from beginning to end, nothing held back anymore. She tells me about the night Marcus was arrested, how she was 12 years old, lying in bed when the police came to the door, how she heard her mother screaming, her father's voice cold and hard as stone, how Marcus came home the next morning to pack a bag before turning himself in, and how he'd hugged her so tight she couldn't breathe, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over into her hair. She tells me about the family meeting a week later, after Marcus had been formally charged, how her father sat them all down at the kitchen table and declared that Marcus no longer existed, that his name was not to be spoken in their house, that anyone who defied this rule would face the same exile. Janet fell in line immediately, Rachel says, her voice hollow. She was only 8. She was scared of Dad, scared of what happened to Marcus. Within a month, it was like she'd forgotten she ever had a brother. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't just erase him. So you kept his memory alive, I say, in secret. I had a shoebox in my closet with pictures of us, birthday cards he'd given me, little things I'd saved. Mom found it when I was 15. She burned everything in the backyard and told me if she ever caught me defying Dad again, I'd be out on the street. I glance at Marcus, who's staring at his hands. You knew about this? Not until years later, he says quietly. Rachel never mentioned it in her letters. Didn't want me to feel guilty, I guess. But yeah, she paid a price for staying loyal to me. A heavy one, Rachel continues. She tells me about turning 18 and immediately opening that P.O. box, writing that first letter with shaking hands. About the 3 weeks she waited for a response, terrified that Marcus would reject her, that he'd tell her to forget about him like everyone else had. But he didn't, she says, smiling through tears. He wrote back, 10 pages front and back, about what prison was like, about the guilt he carried, about how much my letter meant to him. I must have read it 100 times. The letters continued throughout her 20s. Rachel moved out of her parents' house at 19, got her own apartment, started working at the dental office. She finally had the freedom to write Marcus as often as she wanted, to visit him twice a year at the prison upstate. Her parents never knew. Janet never knew. It was Rachel's private rebellion, her quiet refusal to let her family's shame erase someone she loved. And then I met you, she says, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. At Emma's kindergarten play, remember? You were the single dad with the crooked tie, trying to record the whole thing on a camcorder that kept malfunctioning. Despite everything, I smile. I remember. You helped me fix it, saved the whole performance. You asked me to coffee after. I said yes. And for the first time in years, I felt like maybe I could have a normal life, a real relationship, someone who didn't know about my past, about Marcus, about any of it. So you decided not to tell me? I decided to wait, she corrects. I told myself I'd bring it up after a few dates, once I knew you better, but then a few dates turned into a few months, and I was falling in love with you, and the thought of losing you was unbearable. So I kept waiting. and waiting, until suddenly we were engaged and then married, and then it had been so long that I didn't know how to tell you without destroying everything. Marcus stands and walks to the window, his back to us. I told her to come clean before the wedding. Told her you deserved to know what you were getting into, but she was convinced you'd leave her if you knew the truth. Would you have? Rachel asks me, her voice barely a whisper. If I'd told you early on that I had a brother in prison, that I was in contact with him, that I'd defied my entire family to stay loyal to him, would you have stayed? I want to say yes immediately, want to reassure her that nothing could have driven me away, but the honest answer is more complicated. I don't know, I admit. 20 years ago I was different, more judgmental maybe, more concerned with what other people thought. I'd just lost my wife to cancer, was raising Emma alone, trying to keep my dad's company afloat. I was barely holding it together. If you'd told me you had this huge secret, this complicated family situation involving a convicted killer, I might have run. I might have decided it was too much risk, too much baggage. Rachel nods slowly, like this confirms something she's always known. That's what I was afraid of. But Rachel, that was 2 decades ago. We've been married for 14 years. We have a life together, a family. At some point you had to have realized I wasn't going anywhere, that I loved you enough to handle the truth. I did realize that. She twists her wedding ring around her finger. But by then, the lie had become its own prison. Every year that passed made it harder to confess. How do you tell someone you love that you've been lying to them for years? How do you admit that your entire relationship is built on deception? You just do it, I say. You trust that the relationship is strong enough to survive the truth. I wasn't strong enough for that, she whispers. I wish I had been, but I wasn't. Marcus turns from the window. When I got my release date, I told Rachel I was going to contact you myself, tell you everything. I couldn't watch her torture herself anymore. But I begged him not to, Rachel says. I promised I'd tell you myself, in my own time, in my own way. I just needed a few months to figure out how, to prepare myself for losing you. You really thought I'd leave you over this? I thought you'd never trust me again. And I was right, wasn't I? Look at us, David. Look at what my lies have done. She's crying openly now, not bothering to wipe her tears. And she's not wrong. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully repair. Even if I forgive her, even if I understand why she lied, there will always be a part of me that wonders what else she might be hiding. I need you to understand something, Marcus says, his voice firm. Rachel sacrificed everything for me. Her relationship with her parents is destroyed because she wouldn't abandon me. Janet hasn't spoken to her in 10 years because Rachel admitted she was still writing to me. Every Friday she comes here, she risks her marriage, her reputation, everything, just to help me build a life after prison. She doesn't have to do any of this, but she does it anyway, because that's who she is. Loyal to a fault. I know who she is, I say quietly. I've been married to her for 14 years. Then you know she's not a liar by nature. She's not manipulative or calculating. She made one mistake, not telling you about me, and then got trapped in it. Fear kept her silent, not malice. I stand and pace the small room, trying to organize my thoughts. There are so many emotions swirling inside me, anger, hurt, betrayal, but also love, understanding, empathy. Rachel lied to me, yes. But she did it out of fear, not cruelty, and the thing she was hiding wasn't an affair or a gambling problem or any of the dark scenarios I'd imagined. It was loyalty, family, love in its purest, most complicated form. Tell me about your parents, I say to Rachel. Are they still around? She nods. They live in Florida now. We see them maybe once a year, usually for Christmas. They still don't know I'm in contact with Marcus. If they found out... She trails off, the implication clear. They'd disown you too. without hesitation. And Janet? She chose them over me a long time ago. We're civil at family gatherings, but we're not close. We'll never be close again. I think about my own family. My father died 5 years ago, left me the construction company and a legacy of hard work and integrity. My mother lives in Arizona, visits twice a year, calls every Sunday. Emma and our son Jake are both in college, building their own lives. We're a normal family with normal problems. No secrets, no hidden siblings, no decades-long deceptions. Or so I thought. Emma knows something's wrong, I say suddenly. She mentioned it at Thanksgiving, said you seemed secretive, defensive. Rachel pales. Oh God, I didn't think. I've been so careful around the kids. Not careful enough. And you know what the worst part is? Emma's going to find out about this eventually. Jake too. And they're going to realize their mother has been lying to them their entire lives, that they have an uncle they never knew existed. An uncle who's an ex-con, Marcus adds quietly. Don't forget that part. That's going to be a fun conversation. Stop, Rachel says sharply. Don't talk about yourself that way. You made a mistake 22 years ago. You paid for it. You're not defined by the worst moment of your life. Your parents seem to think otherwise. Shh. My parents are cruel, bitter people who chose pride over love. They don't get to define you, or me, or any of us. There's such fierce conviction in her voice that I'm reminded why I fell in love with her in the first place. Rachel has always been a fighter, always stood up for what she believed in, even when it cost her. I just never realized how much it had cost her. I need time, I say finally. I need time to process all of this, to figure out how I feel, what I want to do next. Are you going to leave me? Rachel asks, her voice breaking on the last word. I look at her, really look at her, and see not just my wife of 14 years, but a 12-year-old girl refusing to abandon her brother, a scared teenager hiding photographs in a shoebox, a young woman writing letters every month for 2 decades, a middle-aged woman sacrificing her Friday mornings to help an ex-convict learn how to use a smartphone. No, I say. I'm not going to leave you. But things can't go back to the way they were. Not right now. Maybe not ever. Relief floods her face, followed quickly by understanding. What do you need from me? Honesty. Complete, total honesty from now on. No more secrets, no matter how small, and therapy. We need to see someone together, work through this properly. Okay, yes, whatever you need. I turn to Marcus. And I want to get to know you. Not as Rachel's secret Friday project, but as her brother, as my brother-in-law. If we're going to move forward as a family, that means all of us. No more hiding. Marcus looks stunned. You sure about that, man? I'm not exactly the kind of family member people advertise. Maybe not. But you're Rachel's family, which makes you mine. Besides, seems like you've worked hard to rebuild your life. That deserves recognition, not shame. For the first time since I arrived, Marcus smiles. It transforms his whole face, makes him look younger, less burdened. Thank you. That means more than you know. Rachel stands and walks over to me, hesitant. Can I hug you? I nod, and she wraps her arms around me, pressing her face against my chest. I hold her, feeling her body shake with silent sobs, and I realize we're both grieving. Grieving the loss of innocence in our marriage, the trust that's been broken, the easy comfort we once had with each other. But we're still here, still holding on, and maybe that's enough for now. The drive home is silent. Rachel sits in the passenger seat of my truck, her CRV still parked at Marcus's house. We'll get it tomorrow. Right now, neither of us has the energy for logistics. My phone has 17 missed calls from Pete about the Miller job. I'll deal with it Monday. Some things are more important than kitchen renovations. When we pull into our driveway, the house looks exactly the same as when I left it this morning. Same blue shutters, same wooden porch, same welcome mat Rachel bought 3 years ago that says "Home Sweet Home" in cursive letters. But everything feels different now, like I'm seeing it all through new eyes. Inside, Rachel heads straight for the kitchen and puts on a pot of coffee. It's what she does when she's stressed, makes coffee, even if it's 4 in the afternoon and she won't sleep tonight. I sit at the kitchen table and watch her move through the familiar routine, measuring grounds, filling the reservoir, pressing the button. "I kept a box," she says suddenly, her back still to me. "In the attic. Letters from Marcus, photographs, birthday cards from when we were kids, everything I couldn't bear to throw away but couldn't risk you finding. Show me." She turns, surprised. "Now?" "Now." We climb the narrow stairs to the attic, pull the cord that turns on the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The space is cramped and dusty, filled with boxes labeled Christmas decorations and Emma's baby clothes and Jake's school projects. Normal family detritus. Evidence of a normal life. Rachel moves to the far corner and pulls out a medium-sized cardboard box that's been shoved behind a stack of old photo albums. She carries it downstairs, and we sit on the living room floor. The box between us, like a barrier or a bridge. I can't decide which. "I haven't opened this in years," she says, "was too afraid someone would catch me." "You've been living in fear for a long time." "My whole adult life," she admits. She lifts the lid, and I see what she's preserved. Dozens of photographs of a boy and a girl, clearly siblings, clearly happy. Marcus must be 7 or 8 in the oldest ones, Rachel just a toddler clinging to his hand. They're at a park, at a beach, in front of a Christmas tree. In every photo, Marcus is smiling down at his little sister with obvious affection. "He was a good brother," Rachel says softly, holding up a picture of Marcus pushing her on a swing. "Before everything happened, he was the best big brother I could have asked for." I pick up another photo, Marcus and Rachel, teenagers now, making silly faces at the camera. "When was this taken?" 2 months before the accident, before he killed that man. That's what I call it in my head, before and after. Like our family's history is divided by that one night. In a way it is. I know. But the Marcus in these pictures, the one who taught me how to catch a baseball and threatened to beat up anyone who made me cry, he didn't die that night. He just got lost. And I couldn't let him disappear completely. She pulls out letters next, some in childish handwriting with flowers drawn in the margins, others more mature, written on proper stationery. I recognize her handwriting from grocery lists and birthday cards. But seeing it in this context feels intimate, almost invasive. These letters were never meant for my eyes. "Can I read some of these?" I ask. Rachel hesitates, then nods. "I don't have secrets anymore. Read whatever you want." I choose one at random, dated 8 years ago, the same time period as the wedding letter I read at Marcus's house. This one is different though, more raw. "Dear Marcus, I saw Dad today at the grocery store. He pretended not to see me, walked right past like I was invisible. It's been 3 years since I told him I was still writing to you, and he still won't acknowledge me. Mom called last week, but only to ask if I'd come to my senses yet. Like loving you is some kind of mental illness I need to recover from. Janet got engaged. She didn't tell me herself. I found out from Mom's Facebook. I wasn't invited to the engagement party. I'm not going to be in the wedding. David asked me yesterday why I seemed sad, and I lied and said it was work stress. I'm becoming an expert at lying to the people I love. I hate what this is turning me into." I set the letter down carefully. "You lost your whole family for Marcus." "I lost people who gave me ultimatums. That's not family, David. That's manipulation. But it still hurt. Every single day." I think about my own family, about the easy relationships I've always taken for granted. My father and I disagreed about plenty over the years, politics, business decisions, how to raise Emma, but we never stopped speaking. The idea of erasing someone from your life completely, demanding that everyone else do the same, feels almost incomprehensible to me. Your parents are still alive, I say. Are you planning to tell them Marcus is out? Rachel laughs bitterly. God, no. Can you imagine? They'd probably call the police, accuse him of violating parole or something equally insane. No, as far as they know, Marcus is still locked up for another decade. And when they find out you've been seeing him, then I guess I'll finally be officially disowned. It's been hanging over my head for 10 years anyway. Ever since I admitted I was still writing to him. Might as well make it official. There's a resignation in her voice that breaks my heart. She's already grieving a loss that hasn't happened yet, preparing herself for the inevitable rejection. What about Emma and Jake? I ask. When are we telling them? I don't know. Rachel pulls her knees up to her chest. What do we say? Hey kids, surprise! You have an uncle who spent 2 decades in prison for manslaughter. Hope that doesn't freak you out too much. We tell them the truth. That families are complicated, that people make mistakes, that your mom showed incredible loyalty and love under impossible circumstances. She looks at me with something like hope. You really see it that way? I'm getting there. I'm not going to lie. I'm still angry about the deception, still hurt that you didn't trust me enough to tell me, but I'm also starting to understand the impossible position you were in. I should have trusted you. Yes, you should have, but I also understand why you didn't. We sit in silence for a while, surrounded by the evidence of Rachel's secret life. All these years, while I thought we were building a marriage based on honesty and trust, she was carrying this enormous burden alone. Protecting Marcus, protecting me, protecting our family, all while losing pieces of herself in the process. I want to meet him properly, I say. Marcus, not in some crisis situation where I've just tracked you down. I want to sit down with him, hear his story, understand who he is now. He'd like that. He was terrified you were going to hit him today. Despite everything, I almost smile. The thought crossed my mind. I'm glad you didn't. Me too. Pretty sure an ex-con knows how to throw a better punch than a 52-year-old construction manager. This time Rachel does smile, just a little. It's the first time she's smiled since I showed up at Marcus's door, and it reminds me why I married her. Even in the worst moments, she finds a way to hold on to hope. My phone buzzes. A text from Emma. Dad, is everything okay? Mom's not answering her phone, and you've been MIA all day. Getting worried. I show Rachel the message. We need to call her. What do we say? That we'll explain everything when she comes home for Christmas break. That there's nothing to worry about, but we have some family news to share. Rachel nods and pulls out her own phone. Within minutes, she has Emma on FaceTime, and our daughter's worried face fills the screen. Mom, finally, I've been freaking out. What's going on? Everything's fine, sweetie, Rachel says, and I can hear the lie in her voice, even if Emma can't. Your dad and I just had some things to work through today. Are you guys fighting? Are you getting divorced? No, I say firmly, leaning into frame so Emma can see me. We're not getting divorced. We're just dealing with some family issues. What kind of family issues? Rachel and I exchange a glance. This is it, the moment we start dismantling the carefully constructed fiction we've been living in. The kind we need to discuss in person, Rachel says, when you come home for Christmas. We'll sit down as a family, all 4 of us, and explain everything. Emma's eyes narrow suspiciously. This is weird. You're being weird. I know, baby. I'm sorry. But I promise we'll explain everything soon. Just trust us for a few more weeks. After we hang up, Rachel looks exhausted. Jake's going to react worse than Emma. You know how he is about secrets. I do know. Jake, Our son values honesty above almost everything else. It's what makes him a good student, a loyal friend, but also inflexible sometimes. He sees the world in black and white, right and wrong. The idea that his mother has been lying to him for his entire life is going to devastate him. We'll handle it, I say, with more confidence than I feel. Together. Together, Rachel repeats, like she's testing the word. I wasn't sure I'd hear you say that word again. I almost didn't say it. When I was standing outside Marcus's house, watching you touch his shoulder, I was convinced you were having an affair. I was ready to walk away from everything. But you didn't. No, I knocked on the door instead, demanded the truth, and got a hell of a lot more than I bargained for. Rachel reaches across the box of photographs and takes my hand. Her skin is cold, fingers trembling slightly. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I broke something between us that might never fully heal. But I want you to know that every day of our marriage, every moment we shared, was real. The love was real. The life we built was real. The only thing that wasn't real was the lie about Marcus. Everything else, everything that matters, was true. I squeeze her hand, feeling the weight of 14 years in that simple gesture. I believe you. Do you still love me? The question hangs in the air between us, heavy with fear and hope and desperation. I take my time answering because she deserves honesty, not platitudes. Yes, I say finally. I still love you. I'm angry with you and hurt, and it's going to take time to rebuild trust. But I love you. That hasn't changed. She starts crying again, but these tears feel different. Cleaner somehow, like she's releasing years of pent-up fear and guilt and shame. I love you too, she whispers. God, David, I love you so much. We sit on the living room floor holding hands across a box of secrets, and I realize this is what marriage actually is. Not the perfect moments or the easy times, but this, the hard conversations, the painful revelations, the choice to stay even when leaving would be simpler, the willingness to rebuild when everything falls apart. So what happens now? Rachel asks. Now we start over. Not from scratch, but from a place of honesty. We see that therapist we talked about, we tell the kids, we introduce them to their uncle, we figure out how to be a family with all the complications that entails. And your trust in me? Will take time, but I'm willing to work on it if you are. I am. I swear I am. The coffee pot beeps in the kitchen, signaling it's finished brewing. Rachel stands and offers me her hand. I take it, let her pull me to my feet, and we walk together toward the kitchen, toward coffee and conversation and the long, difficult work of healing. As we pass through the hallway, I notice the family photos on the wall. Pictures of Emma and Jake at various ages, Rachel and me on our wedding day, the four of us at the Grand Canyon 2 summers ago, a visual record of our life together. We need to add Marcus to this wall, I say suddenly. Rachel stops and looks at me, eyes wide. Really? Really? He's family. He should be here. She throws her arms around me, nearly knocking me off balance, and holds on like I'm the only solid thing in a spinning world. Maybe I am. Maybe that's what partners do for each other, become the anchor when everything else is chaos. Thank you, she breathes into my shoulder. Thank you for not giving up on us. I hold her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, feeling the familiar shape of her body against mine. This woman I thought I knew completely, but apparently never fully understood. This complicated, flawed, fiercely loyal person who's been fighting a silent battle for 2 decades. I'm not giving up, I tell her. But Rachel, this has to be the end of secrets. All of them. If there's anything else, anything at all, you need to tell me now. She pulls back and looks me in the eye. There's nothing else. Marcus was the only secret. Everything else you know about me is true. I search her face for any hint of deception and find none. just exhaustion and relief and love. Okay, I say. I believe you. We pour coffee and sit at the kitchen table, and Rachel tells me more about Marcus, about his life in prison, the education programs he completed, the remorse he carries like a physical weight, about his struggles now, finding work with a felony record, reconnecting with a world that's moved on without him, dealing with the guilt and shame that prison couldn't erase. He's trying so hard, she says. Some days I see him and he's doing okay, making progress. Other days he's so lost, I worry he'll give up completely. Does he have other support besides you? Some. There's a re-entry program that helped him find the house, get set up with basic necessities, a parole officer who checks in weekly, but I'm the only family he has, the only person who remembers who he was before. Not anymore, I say. Now he has me too. And soon, Emma and Jake. Rachel's eyes fill with tears again. They're going to have questions, hard questions. Let them ask. We'll answer honestly. All of us together. The sun is setting outside our kitchen window, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Friday evening, the week coming to a close. This morning I woke up in a marriage I thought I understood. Tonight I'm sitting in a marriage I'm having to relearn from the ground up. But I'm still here. We're still here. And maybe that's the most important thing. Christmas comes faster than I'm ready for. 3 weeks of therapy sessions with Dr. Morrison, a woman in her 60s who doesn't let either of us get away with anything. 3 weeks of difficult conversations, tears, anger, and slow, painful progress. 3 weeks of Rachel being completely transparent about everything, her phone password, her schedule, her feelings. 3 weeks of me trying to let go of the hurt while holding on to the love. And now Emma and Jake are coming home, and we have to tell them everything. What if they hate me? Rachel asks for the 100th time as we set up the guest rooms. Jake's old room still has his high school football trophies on the shelves. Emma's has the collection of snow globes she started when she was 8. They won't hate you, I say, though I'm not entirely sure. Jake especially. He's always been uncompromising about honesty. Finding out his mother lied for his entire life might break something between them. Jake will hate me. He'll be angry. There's a difference. Rachel sits on Emma's bed, holding one of the snow globes. Paris, from a family trip 5 years ago. I keep thinking about all the times they asked about my family, all the lies I told them about why we never saw my parents, why they only had one set of grandparents. I told them my parents were difficult, that we'd had a falling out. I made it sound so simple, so normal, but it was never simple. They'll understand once they know the full story. Will they? I'm not sure I'd understand if I were them. The doorbell rings before I can answer. Emma, early as always. Rachel and I head downstairs together, and when we open the door, our daughter practically tackles us both with hugs. "I've missed you guys so much," Emma says, her voice muffled against Rachel's shoulder. "College food is disgusting," my roommate snores, "and I'm pretty sure my chemistry professor is actively trying to kill us with homework." She looks good, healthy, happy. I'm about to destroy that happiness with the truth, and the guilt sits heavy in my chest. Jake arrives an hour later, quieter as always, but his hug is just as fierce. "Hey, Dad. Mom." He looks between us, and I see the question in his eyes. He knows something's coming. Emma might have written off our weird phone call as parental drama, but Jake's always been more perceptive. We order pizza for dinner, letting the kids decompress, telling stories about their semester. Emma's thinking about changing her major from biology to environmental science. Jake made the dean's list again, no surprise there. They're growing into remarkable adults, and watching them laugh and joke across the dinner table, I'm terrified of how this conversation might change things. After dinner, Rachel and I exchange a look. It's time. "Kids," I say, my voice more serious than I intend. We need to talk to you about something important. Family stuff." The laughter dies. Emma and Jake both go still, their faces shifting from relaxed to guarded in an instant. "You're getting divorced," Jake says flatly. "It's not a question." "No," Rachel says quickly. "We're not getting divorced, but your dad and I have been working through something difficult, and it involves both of you. It involves our whole family." We move to the living room. Rachel and I sit on the couch, Emma and Jake in the chairs across from us. The box from the attic sits on the coffee table between us. I'd brought it down this morning, knowing we'd need it. "Before I start," Rachel says, her voice shaking slightly, "I need you both to know that I love you more than anything in this world. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, has been because I was trying to protect this family. I know that doesn't excuse what I'm about to tell you, but I need you to understand that." "Mom, you're scaring me," Emma says. Rachel takes a deep breath. "I have a brother. His name is Marcus. You've never met him because I've been keeping his existence a secret since before you were born." The silence that follows is absolute. Emma's mouth drops open. Jake's face goes completely blank, the way it does when he's processing something that doesn't compute. "You have a brother," Jake finally says, his voice carefully neutral. "A secret brother." "Yes." "How is that even possible?" Emma asks. "We've met Aunt Janet. We know about your family. How could you have a whole brother we didn't know about?" Rachel opens the box and pulls out one of the old photographs, Marcus and her as children, smiling at the camera. "This is Marcus. He's 6 years older than me. He was my best friend growing up." Emma takes the photo with trembling hands. "Why didn't we know about him?" "Because when Marcus was 21, he made a terrible mistake. He got in a fight outside a bar, and a man died. It wasn't premeditated. It was manslaughter, not murder. But the result was the same. Someone lost their life, and Marcus went to prison." "For how long?" Jake asks. 22 years. He was released 4 months ago." Jake stands up abruptly, pacing to the window. 22 years. So he's been in prison our entire lives." "Yes." "And you never thought to mention this? Never thought we deserved to know we had an uncle?" "Your grandparents, my parents, disowned Marcus when he went to prison," Rachel says. "They told Janet and me that he was dead to them, that we were never to speak his name again. Anyone who defied that rule would be cut off from the family completely." Emma's eyes widen with understanding. "That's why we barely see Grandma and Grandpa. That's why you and Aunt Janet aren't close." "I chose Marcus," Rachel says simply. "I chose to stay in contact with him, to write him letters, to visit him when I could. My parents found out when I was 23, and they cut me off. Janet chose them over me. That's the falling out I told you about. That's why our family is so small." Jake turns from the window, his face hard. "So you've been lying to us for our entire lives. About your family, about why we don't have a relationship with your parents, about everything." "I wasn't lying about everything." "Yes, you were." Jake's voice rises. "Every time we asked why we only saw Grandma and Grandpa once a year, every time we asked why you seemed sad around the holidays, every time we wondered why our family was different from everyone else's, you lied. You gave us half-truths and vague answers and made us feel like it was normal when it wasn't." Rachel's crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was trying to protect you from the ugliness of it all." "Protect us," Jake laughs bitterly, "or protect yourself." "Jake," I say sharply, "that's enough." "No, Dad. It's not enough. She lied to us. She lied to you. She's been living this secret double life while we all just went along thinking everything was fine. How is that protecting anyone?" Emma's crying too now, but she's quiet about it, tears falling as she looks through the photographs in the box. "You've been visiting him, Marcus?" "Every Friday for the past 4 months, Rachel admits. "Before that, I wrote him letters every month and visited twice a year when he was in prison." "The bank," I say. Every Friday when you said you were going to the bank. Emma looks up at me, understanding dawning. You knew about this. How long have you known? 3 weeks. I found out the same way you're finding out now. Your mom finally told me the truth. Because you tracked her, Jake says. It's not a question. The GPS thing, Emma told me about it. You didn't trust her, so you tracked her, and you found out she was lying. The accusation stings because it's true. Yes, I put a GPS tracker on her car. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know what was going on. So nobody in this family trusts each other, Jake says. That's what you're telling me. Mom lies, Dad spies, and we're all just supposed to pretend this is fine. It's not fine, Rachel says. None of this is fine. But I'm trying to make it right. That's why we're telling you now. That's why I want you to meet Marcus, to understand who he is and why I couldn't abandon him. You want us to meet your ex-con brother, Jake says flatly. I want you to meet your uncle, Rachel corrects. A man who made one terrible mistake when he was barely older than you are now, and who spent 2 decades paying for it. A man who's kind and thoughtful, and who wants nothing more than a chance to be part of this family. Emma sets down the photographs. Does he know about us? He's known about you since the day you were born. I've sent him pictures, told him stories about you, kept him connected to the family even though he couldn't be here in person. That's creepy, Jake says. Some stranger in prison knowing all about our lives. He's not a stranger, Rachel says fiercely. He's your uncle. He's my brother. And yes, he made a horrible mistake. But he's not defined by that mistake. He's a human being who deserves compassion and a second chance. Like you deserve a second chance, Jake asks. After lying to us for 20 years. The words hit Rachel like a physical blow. She flinches, fresh tears spilling over. I reach for her hand and hold it tight. Your mother made a mistake, I say to Jake. A big one, but she made it out of love and fear, not malice. She was trying to protect everyone. Marcus, us, you kids. And she got trapped in a lie she didn't know how to escape from. That's not an excuse, Jake says. No, it's not. It's an explanation. There's a difference. Emma speaks up, her voice quiet but steady. I want to meet him. Marcus, I want to hear his story from him, not just from Mom. Rachel looks at her daughter with such hope it breaks my heart. Really? Really? I mean, I'm mad that you lied. I'm hurt that you didn't trust us enough to tell us the truth, but I also understand why you did it. Grandma and Grandpa are... She trails off, searching for the right word. Cruel, I supply. They're cruel people who chose pride over love. Yeah, Emma says. That, and if you stood up to them, if you chose Marcus even when it cost you everything else, then maybe there's something worth knowing about him. Rachel reaches across the coffee table and takes Emma's hand. Thank you, baby. Thank you for giving him a chance. Jake's still standing by the window, arms crossed, face stormy. I need time to process this. I can't just pretend everything's okay because you finally decided to tell the truth. I understand, Rachel says. Take all the time you need. And I want to know everything, not just about Marcus, but about the lies. All of them. Every time you lied to us, every half-truth, every omission. I want complete honesty from here on out. You have it. I promise. Jake nods stiffly and leaves the room. We hear his footsteps on the stairs, the door to his room closing firmly, but not quite slamming. Emma wipes her eyes. He'll come around. He just needs time to be angry first. I know, Rachel says. I don't blame him. When can we meet Marcus? Emma asks. The question catches me off guard. I'd expected more anger, more accusations, more time needed before anyone was ready to move forward. But Emma's always been like this, quick to process, quick to forgive, quick to move toward healing. Whenever you're ready, Rachel says. He lives about 20 minutes from here. I could call him tomorrow if you want. Christmas Eve, Emma decides. Let's meet him on Christmas Eve. It feels right, you know. Christmas is about family. Might as well expand ours. Rachel breaks down completely then, sobbing into her hands. Emma moves to the couch and wraps her arms around her mother, and I see the strength in my daughter that she inherited from Rachel. The ability to love even when it's hard, to forgive even when it hurts, to choose connection over isolation. Later that night, after Emma's gone to bed and Jake's still holed up in his room, Rachel and I lie in our bed staring at the ceiling. "Emma surprised me," she says quietly. "I thought she'd be angrier. She's processing. The anger might come later. And Jake? Jake will take longer, but he'll get there. He loves you too much not to." Rachel turns to face me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Do you think we'll survive this? As a family?" I think about the past 3 weeks, the therapy sessions where we've said things we can't unsay, where we've excavated wounds we didn't know we had, the slow, painful work of rebuilding trust, the moments of tenderness mixed with moments of anger, the choice, every single day, to stay and fight for what we have. Yes, I say, we'll survive it. We might even come out stronger. How can you be sure? Because we're still here. Because even when it would be easier to walk away, we're choosing to stay. That has to count for something. She moves closer, resting her head on my chest. I wrap my arms around her and feel her breathing slowly steady. Outside, snow begins to fall, the first real snow of the season. Through the window, I watch the flakes drift past the streetlight, silent and beautiful. "David?" Rachel's voice is drowsy. "Yeah?" "Thank you for not giving up on us. On me. Thank you for finally trusting me with the truth." She's asleep within minutes, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. But I lie awake, thinking about Christmas Eve, about introducing my children to their uncle, about the strange path that brought us to this moment. My phone buzzes on the nightstand. A text from Marcus. "Rachel told me you're bringing the kids by on Christmas Eve. I'm nervous as hell, man. What if they hate me?" I type back, "They won't hate you. They might be scared or angry or confused, but they won't hate you. Just be yourself. That's all any of us can do." 3 dots appear, then disappear, then appear again. Finally, thank you for everything. For giving Rachel a chance to make this right, for being willing to include me. I know I don't deserve it. Everyone deserves a second chance, I write, even people who think they don't. I set the phone down and close my eyes. Tomorrow we'll wake up and face whatever comes next. Jake's anger, Emma's questions, the nervousness of Christmas Eve, the challenge of blending a fractured family back together. But tonight, in this moment, Rachel is sleeping peacefully beside me for the first time in weeks. The truth is out. The secrets are exposed. The healing has begun. And that's enough.